Welcome to the first video in a multi-video series on how to create the step stool. On this first video, we are going to be getting our first piece of material, cutting it to length, and then laying out a series of lines. So what you are going to need to do for materials is you're going to need your iPad, you're going to need the 36-inch handout file. Looks something like that. Okay. You'll also need a ruler or a tape measure, a square, a combination of these. You're certainly not going to need all of these. You could get this done with just a tape measure and a straight edge. You could get this done with, a combination square, carpenter square, combination of the two. So whatever you can get your hands on, share with people around you, whatever you got to do to get it done. I'll show you a couple different techniques of how to use a series of them. And then the last thing you're obviously going to need is a pencil. So first thing we're going to need is a board to work with here. So the material is going to be over here in this room. Now, at the beginning, with a large group, we have these longer boards. Each student is going to need 36 inches or 3 feet. So for a longer board, that's maybe 6 feet, or you could get 2 people with that board, or 9 feet. If you're behind and you're by yourself, you can certainly cut a piece and then bring the extra back, like we have a couple of pieces here. So we're going to do that. Like I said, if you're in a large group, if you're with a lot of people, you can easily grab 2. But we're just going to grab 1, and we're going to go straight to the miter saw. Okay, we don't have to draw any lines or anything like that. We can just get right here because we're going to make what's called a rough cut. So we'll take our tape measure, and we're just going to measure out 36 inches. Okay, and I don't know if you can see that close enough, but there is a laser on this one. Now, I don't trust a laser if I need something dead on 36. I'm not gonna do this. And you'll see it in the later steps. We would draw a pencil mark here, another one for the kerf, and then we'd bring the blade down and get exactly to where we want to be. But this is gonna be what we call a rough cut, where we just gotta be close because we have room to spare. If you look really close at the drawing, let's see if I can get this. There's a lot of glare there, but so much delay. Okay, there is I think it's like 1 5/8 inches of scrap, and there's even a little bit of scrap up here. So we're not going to need that full 36 inches. So as long as we just go there, we get really close to 36. We could cut right on that laser line. If we're off by a 1/16 or something like that, it's not going to matter. So let's lay that out again. We're going to just put, like I said, 36 on the laser just to get this done quick. Like I said, there's a good chance that this will be a choke point and there'll be a lot of kids waiting for their turn. So 36, that's good enough. Remember our safety stuff where we have the margin of safety with our left hand here, 6 inches away from the material or from the blade. I recommend putting your hand kind of in between these 2 verticals. That's where a good 6 inches is. Your thumb, notice how my thumb is pointed down. I don't like thumbs sticking straight out. That, again, gets you closer to the blade. So thumb here, fingers up top. Now, good down pressure, good pressure against the fence. So this part back here. So good pressure on the table, good pressure up against the fence. I'm leaning into my left arm a little bit. You see the table's almost moving a little bit. This is the clamp. This is going to keep that board perfectly stabilized. Make sure your board is tight against that fence all the way across. Okay, that's going to keep things square. We want this to be a nice 90-degree cut. Okay, so now we're going to turn on the saw. After we pull it all the way out, we're going to turn it on. We're going to let it get up to speed. We're going to bring it all the way down into the material, and then we're going to keep it down. Don't let it drift up. Keep it down, and then come all the way to the back. Once you're through and you've actually, you've bottomed out here, you can feel the saw stop. Turn off the power. Let it come to a complete stop. Then we can bring the saw up. Okay, so normally the dust collector would be on. It'd be a lot noisier in here, but so you can get my audio, we're going to run it without the dust collector for now. Okay, so pull the saw out. We'll turn it on. Down. Now in. Okay. Again, we keep our hands in the same position until that blade has come to a complete stop, and then we can lift that up and we're done. Okay, your hand should not be moving at all when the blade is moving. If your hand is here while it's spinning, if your hand is here while it's spinning, it can't get in the blade. So always keep these in the correct position during the cut. Okay, so this is a scrap piece. It could be useful for something down the road if we made a mistake on a leg or something, so I'm not going to throw that away. I'll maybe just start a little discard over here. We'll kind of figure out where that is once we're in class. But there you go. You got a 36-inch piece. Pretty close. You know, looks like we're off by a 1/16 or so. Not, again, we had 1 5/8 inches to spare if you do the math, so not worried about that at all. Okay, so now let's bring this to the table here. We've got our plans. We are ready to start drawing lines. Okay, oops, forgot my tape measure. There we go. Okay, so now when you look at all these lines down here, these red lines, those are the dimensions that we're going to start with. Okay, and now this isn't an exploded view of the project. These air gaps represent kerf. The saw is going to turn these into sawdust, so we have to compensate for that. I can't just lay this out and draw a single line at 16 and a single line at 25 and, you know, whatever, all the way down, because the blade is going to cut wider than a single pencil line and we're going to not be accurate. So that's what all of those dimensions there are for, telling you to make one line and then a second line next to it. And then from that second line, you're measuring another one. So at the end of the day, if you look close, you can see that at the end of the day, your top is supposed to be a 16x9 and your legs are both supposed to be 9x9s. But you know, all these dimensions, we're compensating for kerf. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pencil and we're just going to follow that sheet all the way down, and we're just going to make little marks for now. So the first dimension it says there is 16. So I'm going to try to keep my ruler straight, you know, this distance off the edge of the board, you know, so I don't have an angle in making my measurement inaccurate. So our first dimension was, let's see if I can get you close here. Okay, I'll move my fingers so you can see. 16 and 16 and 1/8. Now this ruler, this tape measure goes to 1/16 of an inch, so 1/16, 2/16, 2/16 simplified is 1/8. So the, you know, that gap there is about what you're looking for. Okay, so there's 16, and then there's 16 and 1/8. Those are the first two. You're done with those. The next one is 25 and 1/8. 25 and 1/8 will make a mark, and then 25 and 1/4. There you go. Let's see, 34 and 1/4. Let's see, 34 and 1/4. And then 34 and 3/8. Okay, so those are the first series of our lines there. We can make a couple more while we're at it, just kind of while we're making these little nick marks here. Let's look at the vertical here. There's a horizontal line that goes all the way across. That's going to be a rip cut, if you remember from our table saw safety test. 9 and 9 and 1/8. So we can make that. 9 and 9 and 1/8. Cool. Now for that one, I'm actually going to do that again over here. I'll show you how to use just a straight edge to make this one. So again, we'll do that again, 9 and 1/8. Okay, we're getting there. There's still, to me, we covered this line, this line, this line. We covered the across line. There'll be this one left yet to do, but that's okay. We'll get there. Okay, let's make that one that goes all the way across. Okay, and for this one, it would be ideal if you had a 3-foot long straight edge. So if you can borrow that from somebody, if not, you know, maybe you could use a 12-inch ruler or one of these 16-inch rulers. And what you would do is you'd have to make more of these little double dash lines. You could do that here, 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 all the way down. Then you could just do this in a series. You know, you could draw all the way across, get to those points, and then move it over, draw all the way to those points. For that, you wouldn't want to use one of these combination squares, that gets in the way. So here I've got some shorter ones, some longer ones, whatever works. Again, so if I increased the amount of these, instead of just 2 on the far outside, like if I had a couple here, I could easily just do this one section at a time, go across, slide it down, go across. So if you can't get your hands on a 36, it's okay. But for this demo, let's say you do get one. Okay, so I'm lining up with the, hopefully, I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but I'm lining up with the bottom line first. I'm trying to match it just the same over there. Okay, and now trying to hold the ruler as steady as possible. I don't want it sliding on me during this. Might readjust my hand grip without sliding the ruler around. And then a couple of times makes the line a little bolder. It's not bad. Okay, so there's one. Didn't turn out too bad, a little bit of a bump there, but we'll be all right. But yeah, so we got one. Now let's do the second one. Pencil line. Yep, just to see the pencil line, because your pencil has to continue the line. So if you cover up the pencil line, there's no way your pencil's actually gonna hit that exact same mark. So again, going over it a couple of times here just to make sure it's nice and coarse, easy to see. Cool. All right, so easy. Okay, now these vertical lines, the easiest way to do these is with one of these longer combination squares. Okay, it obviously, it goes all the way to the top, really simple. I am making sure the square is tight against the board. That way this stays perfectly 90. I want that to be a nice square line. Okay, I don't want anything crooked. If this line's crooked, I'm not gonna have a square top or a square leg. So same thing, pencil line, pencil. For this one, this line that we're about to extend, it goes all the way through from top to bottom of the part. So okay, there's one line. Okay, there we go. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. They kind of get used to what you were doing before. Notice how this second one does not go all the way through the part. Okay, the stretcher above it stops part way through. So this line, do not bring it all the way through the top. Okay. If you didn't have one of these, let's say you weren't lucky enough to get one of those, these carpenter squares are really great, and I have a lot of those, so hopefully you can get your hands on one of those. Okay, what you can do, again, get it nice and square. This one, it goes underneath the bottom here, but then still square to the wood. Let's see if I can get your angles here. Yep, square to the wood. Okay, line up our mark. This has got a little bit of a pivot point there to draw around, but okay, now this isn't going to get you all the way. Okay, it's only going to get you about 9-10 inches or so. However, you could flip it over to the top because this board's nice and square on the top and bottom. There you go. So we use the top edge to extend the reach of this thing. So that works. That would work for this one too. Again, if you weren't lucky enough to get one of the long combination squares, it's not a big deal. Oops. Yep. Good thing I caught that right away. Yep, don't put that mark there. Even I make mistakes. Okay, last one. If we look at our sheet. Okay, and again, there's that scrap, that like 1 5/8 we had to work with, so it's not a big deal if we weren't exactly 36 for this cut. Other cuts, we're going to want to be very accurate, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so for this one, we'll do the same thing with this combination square. Now, some people might ask, do I have to draw the entire line? Can't I just cut on those little marks? And I get the reason why I like drawing the lines all the way is because you don't know where the saw is going to come down on this to line up your mark. You know, if you just had two little marks here, you know, you might be you might not line up with the blades. You might be in trouble that way. So last thing we got to do is this one here. So that is measured from the end of the board. We'll get our tape measure again. If you can't get a tape measure, that 36-inch ruler, that yardstick would work for this too. Just trying to be versatile here, show you all the different ways to do it. The first line is 32 1/8, so that is here. And the second line is 32 1/4. And those two little marks. You know, and you know, one of these squares, if this is what you get, same principle as the carpenter square, that black triangle, you know, does the same purpose. Just get this edge tight against the edge of your board. Make sure that there's no air gaps or anything like that. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, and then draw it and draw it. Okay. I wouldn't bother labeling everything with just big letters and stuff yet. That's just going to be more stuff to erase. You know, if this is all the farther you get at the end of the day and I yell cleanup, it'd be really smart to like write your name on the edge of a board. You know, this is going to get cut off anyway, so you don't have to worry about erasing it. It's easy to see when there's a stack of boards in the storage room. Easy to spot your name. So, you know, it's always smart to double check your dimensions. And now we can actually look at your top being a 16 by 9, your leg being a 9 by 9, your leg being a 9 by 9, and we can see that, yep, that's dead on 16. You can look here, are we, you know, right at 9? And if I can get the camera to cooperate, looks like we're right at 9. And here, right at 9. So, good to check. It's also good to check it up here because if we accidentally made angles, you know, the numbers might vary. So it's good to check up here, make sure we're 9, you know, make sure we're 9, and then from the end of the board, make sure we're 16. So checking twice will make sure everything is parallel. If things are parallel, things are square, we're in good shape. Okay, so you have all your lines. The next step is to go to the table saw, and that'll be in the next video. We'll be making a rip cut on this edge to make sure the board is in fact 11 1/8. I don't know if we take a look with our tape measure. Looks like this one might not even need it. That's pretty darn good, 11 1/8. But some boards might be a little wider, so don't panic if yours is. Yeah, so we'll make a rip cut, whether we cut anything or not, that remains to be seen, at 11 1/8. And then we'll also make a rip cut at 9. That'll be this one here. That one will definitely cut. That actually is gonna cut all through this line. That will end up with two parts. We'll have our top, legs, and then we'll have our two stretchers. So that's in the next video.